next on the programme, how to build a future for Leicester's garment industry. Now this week we've been hearing how hundreds of local factories closed after a crackdown on sweatshops in the city. And in a moment we're going to be talking to a professor who's looking at some of the possible solutions. But first, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball has been to see how one Derbyshire company is adapting.
Yeah, welcome to David Nieper in Alfreton. Now, this is how they used to cut fabric. This is for a nightie here. You can see the cutting machine over there. Louise is using the traditional scissors, but just look how different the technology is here now. Excuse me, Andy, just pop through. Now, this is a machine that's cutting fabric for a high-end coat. It's all very, very mechanised, as you can see, very technological. The important thing about this is it's computerized, and if you look at this screen, you can see on here how they've actually cut the bits of fabric to reduce waste to an absolute minimum, and that, of course, is helping things as well. Let's have a chat with Christopher Nieper, who is the Chief Executive here. Christopher, thanks for having us along. How much difference is technology making here?
Oh, it's massive. Even in my career, I started doing this when I first joined the company, and now we have these fabulous machines. First of all, it's incredibly accurate. Every collar, every sleeve is cut perfectly, so they fit really well. But of course, the other thing is we can make things just in time. We print our own fabrics, we cut our own fabrics, we sew the garments, and this is proof that it can be done in Britain.
And you know, people worry that new technology is about cutting jobs. Think of the Luddites 200 years ago, but you don't see it like that, do you?
No, our business has grown little by little every year for 30 years, and actually the more competitive we become, the more able we are to survive in this country.
These machines must cost a lot of money, though.
They do cost a lot of money, but they last for quite a few years, and they never complain, the machines.
They never complain, no. And we heard this week about garment producers trying to compete with China or India, where they're making T-shirts for £1. How do you compete with that?
There's no point in trying to compete with that, Jeremy. What you're holding in your hand will become a tailored lined jacket, which sells for £350.
Christopher Nieper, thank you very much for joining us. And it's not just this. This is the sort of thing that people will end up wearing that's made right here in Alfreton.
Well, let's pick up on that point about lessons for Leicester. Rachel Granger is a professor at Garment3 University. Thank you so much for speaking to us, coming to the sofa. I know you've done an awful lot of work looking at the garment industry. And do you think what we've just seen is a message for Leicester? That is the direction that the companies there need to be going in?
Yeah, I think it is. We've lost, 95% of the garment industry in Leicester over the last 4 years, but we do know from experience that where you invest, where you put knowledge into that and you use universities' knowledge to really drive the change in those business, there is a future.
Oh, when you say drive the change, what do you mean by that? Is it implementing and using greater and more technology?
I think it is. If you look at Germany and Italy, which really lead Europe in terms of textiles manufacture, what they've both done is to drive skills, move it towards higher value garments, and to use automation. And as a result, if you take Italy, for example, 1.5 times the size of garment manufacture in this country with a third of the workers. It's competitive, and more than anything, that's what's needed.
With more automation, you say it's more competitive, a third of the workforce. That means more people then may be out of a job?
I think it is, but that's much better than losing the industry totally. And let's not forget, in the Midlands, we're a manufacturing region. You do not want to be losing any sort of manufacturing skills and put the rest of manufacturing at risk.
And when you say higher value garments, is that down to us then to stop trying to buy, this fast fashion cheap stuff, loads of things every week, but that we can just chuck away?
I think fast fashion's got to go, but I think it's also about moving some of those industries into green textiles, for example, the higher value goods. That's where the future is.
Do you see a future for the textile industry in Leicester? As we say, we've lost nearly 4 out of 5 factories, but implementing this kind of thing, A, do you see it happening, and B, do you think it'll work?
We've seen some companies that have innovated, and they've innovated by committing and putting down the capital, as you've seen with David Nieper, to change the system. I think what we do need, though, is a national sector plan that will help to secure it for the future.
Well, fingers crossed that does happen. Rachel, thanks very much indeed for coming in to speak to us.